Hello, students. It's Friday, and I've been getting a few emails, so I thought I'd give you guys a few hints on this case study project. Okay, so first off, you can see my screen. You can see that I have all of my tables created, and if I were to look at my tables, they are fully populated with data, all of them. So now I have them all open, and I can move between the tables and see I have the data. So I imported the data from Excel. If you had trouble with it, one of the easy tricks to do is to actually just let Excel build the tables for you so that you don't build them first in Access and then import, but simply do it in one step. After all of your tables are populated, the next thing that you need to do is go over to, so here we are at Home, go over to Database Tools, go to Relationships, and make sure that all of your tables are properly configured like you see here, where all the one-to-many relationships are set up between tables, like store location is a one-to-many here. Likewise, we have a movie ID that goes to the rentals, and we've got all of that set up properly. In order for our queries to work, we must have all the relationships. So if you're unclear, YouTube is an awesome source for videos on almost anything. You can say access relationships and you'll get some great videos on it to understand how that works. So I'm going to assume everybody, I'm going to close that. I'm going to close a lot of the tables so I can start working on the queries. You should also, when I was working on queries, I would recommend actually printing out the data, because what you're doing with a query is you're trying to get a subset of information based on something you're looking for. So you should be able to look at the data and see if, in fact, you got the result you're supposed to get. Just like the way you can check your math problems or anything. Look and see. If you asked for all, for example, under rentals, if you asked for all the, I can even sort on this if I want. If I asked for all the movies that were in April and none showed up, then I have a problem, because I can see that there's a lot of movies that were rented in April. So be aware of your data. Okay, so after we create our database, we are going to do three things. We're going to create queries, we're going to create forms, and we're going to create reports. We have quite a few in the queries. You can use the query wizard, but I would recommend using query design. So when we create a new query, it just calls it query 1, and then we save it later. The first thing that shows up is the tables we want to add. You can add as many tables as you want. If you want more than one, I'm holding down the control key. So now I've got both the tables up that I'm interested in. And notice that the relationship is already shown in place, so we've built our tables properly. Okay? So now, this is to plan ID. Oh, that wasn't the table I wanted. So I right-click. Right-click works everywhere. It's wonderful. And I realized I wanted rentals. So I really didn't care as much about that. So I'm going to move these so they look the way I want. And say we want to make, so now we've got all the tables we need. And down here is where we play with all the criteria. Now again, go to YouTube. Ask for how you work with dates. Ask you how you make expressions. How do you access? How do you make parameters? So for example, the first query was a little bit challenging. I should have moved it a little further down. But list customers checking out movies for any given month. Well, first we have to figure out what table that's going to be in. That would be in the rentals table. So what are we looking at? We're probably going to look at checkout date. So if I double click on there, it'll just show me that it's going to display that, and I'm going to show it. I would run the query often as you build it. So I run it right now, and it's just showing me all the checkout dates. I can go back to design view and say I want to add order to it. Run it again, and it looks a little nicer. So build your queries slowly and see how they go. What about if I only had one table, I could add just the customer ID associated with it, but that's not very pretty. because I don't know my customer numbers. So what might be better is if I removed this one and I used the fact that they were connected in this relationship and I just chose last name. They're both going to show. I'm going to also put these in order and look what happens. Now I see who checked out, how many they checked out each day. So we're starting to get some meaningful information. The first query says, list the customers check out movies for any given month. Well, right now, the way it works is it shows all of them, right? So we want to get a little bit more data about it. And if you look up what some functions are, okay, one of the ways you can look it up is to right-click and do build, and you can see what all the cool things we have available. And you'll look for built-in functions, and I look for date, time, and I notice that there's a month function. So you can build it all in here, but I'm going to build it right here. Actually, it's this query that I already, look at this. So now let's see what this one is. Query. I want to look at it in, where's design view? Thank you. Okay. So this shows you the checkout date, the return date, and the customer ID. Checkout, return, customer ID. Wasn't the one I wanted to show you. Let's see what this one does. Ah, this is the one I wanted. Look at that pretty little box up here. So this is more looking like what we're going to want for the first one. List customer checkout movies for any given month. So if I enter the month 6, I didn't get any. But if I run it again, and I enter the month 4, I will see that I get only the checkouts in the month of April. So let's look at, so that's the solution. List customer checkout movies for any given month. So every time you run it, you can enter the month. So let's look at now, whoops, our design view. We have our rentals, we have our customers, we have the checkout date and the last name, which I already showed you. These are the cute little tricks that we've got in the next one. If we want just part of a field, I am using the month function, and this is the field. So in the checkout date, extract just the month information. And then I want them to have the ability to enter a parameter. So because I put this in square brackets and all of those words were not a field like it is here, see how it is a field? Because it's not a field, it will ask you for that information. And it knows that, in fact, what you're saying is where this is equal to this. So now when I run it, notice how that's enter month check date. If I enter 5, you'll see I get those. If I go back to design view and I want to make this nicer words, that's also not a field, so it's going to run, and look at that, it's right up there, and I can enter 4. So that would be the way to do the first query as a hint. List movies rented by month for all customers. Let's think about how we would do that. If you go to create, we're going to do a query, and we know that this is going to be rentals and customers, so I'll pull up both of these. And I know first I'm going to go by month, so that is going to be probably the rental check date. And again, I'm going to use that field. It's capital M for month, open paren saying it's expecting something in there, square bracket, and I am going to look at check date, square bracket, All right, so I'm just going to do that. I'm going to show it. I'm going to sort by ascending, and I'm going to add the customer's last name. Let's see what happens. There you go. You can also start using totals and groupings, so I would suggest you play with that. And I wanted to give you one more hint. Which one was it? Oh, overdue. That's a little bit of a challenging one. So let's think about what overdue movies means. It means that, well, let's look at our tables. If you look at our rentals, you will see that I have a checkout date, I have the number of days it's rented, and the return date. Access understands dates. So how about if you add the checkout date with the number of days? Okay, so that's how long it can be out. If the return date is less than that, then it's not overdue. You hear that? Checkout date plus number of days. If it is greater than what the return date was, then we're in good shape. So let's look at how that looks. So I created in design view, first I got the whole date, then the days of rental, then the return date. And then I ran that just as it was so that I could see all the data the way I wanted. Then I added the next part. And here is where I am creating a calculation. I created a calculation called total, which is check date plus day of rental. Now these have to be spelled exactly the way the field name is spelled, or it will think it's a parameter. And then that value has to be greater than the return date. And there we go. Okay, so I wanted to give you a little assistance. I know that this is challenging. Watch videos, go to Access, go to YouTube, go to Access, ask questions, and hopefully that will help you solve the rest of these. Have a great weekend. Bye.